In our locker room, we have the date of the championship written on the board. In our room, we have like just a piece of paper that says NEC Champs right when we walk into the bathroom.
Sports Paws, everyone. I'm Giovanni.
And I'm Camille Bova. After punching their ticket to the big dance, the women's basketball team headed to Maryland, while the men's ice hockey team headed to Atlantic City to finish up the NCAA Tournament.
Let's not forget about the spring sports, Camille. The men's baseball team went down to the Jersey Shore this weekend, while the women's lacrosse team hosted in-state rival Sacred Heart.
All that and more coming up.
After a 72-33 win against St. Francis University, the women's basketball team won their first ever Northeast Conference Championship and NCAA Tournament bid. As a 13th seed, the team would travel to College Park, Maryland to face the Terrapins of Maryland. How did the Bobcats react to and play in their first NCAA Tournament game? Our very own Jon Alba has a scoop.
The Quinnipiac Bobcats ended their season after a 72-52 loss to the Maryland Terrapins in the first round of the NCAA Tournament at the Comcast Center. The Bobcats started the game hot, coming out of the gates with a 21-12 run that left the Terrapins searching for answers. But Maryland would answer with 9 consecutive points, led by the play of Alyssa Thomas and Tiana Hawkins. Quinnipiac trailed by only 4 at the half, but shot just 19% from the field in the second frame. Jasmine Martin would finish the day 2 for 15, while Felicia Barron went 4 for 18 in her final career game.
I think our shots weren't falling. You know, the first shot of the half was a pretty easy bunny, but it just missed off the rim, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the half. We couldn't put the ball in the bucket. We had to fight for every shot we got, so I think that was the toughest thing. And then they kept getting transition easy scores, so that was the other thing.
Thomas and Hawkins would lead the way with 29 and 21 for the Terps, as the team will now face Michigan State in the second round. The Bobcats will only be losing 3 seniors this year: Lisa Lieback, Felicia Barron, and Shelby Safera. Coach Fabry says they've established a new precedent, and they expect to be back next season.
We have now set a new standard and raised the level of excellence in play in this program going forward. Now to get back here and have this experience, this NCAA experience here at Maryland, but to have the family, the friends, you saw us travel so well down here, to be in the hotel, to enjoy the pep rally, that's now a tangible experience, and it's one that we're going to expect and really want going forward. We've set a new standard of excellence in the program getting into this dance. They will not forget this and want to be back here again next year.
Jon Alba, Sports Paws.
And you battled. We were even on the offensive boards. Turned them over 25 times. Their length and their size made it difficult for us to just get something going in the offensive end in the second half. Just needed a little mo in the second half, something to drop to get us going, but you freaking battled. Couldn't be more proud of you. Could not.
We had one of Sports Paws' very own take a trip down with the team to Maryland, and he's here to tell us how it went. Please welcome the Associate Sports Director of Q30 Television, Mr. Jon Alba. Jon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Gio.
Oh, no problem, anytime. So can you tell me, how did the trip go?
The trip was fantastic. I mean, the accommodations that the Quinnipiac University Athletics Association makes for these teams is just absolutely tremendous. And you don't really understand the appreciation that these players have for the personnel until you actually travel with them, and furthermore gain my appreciation as well.
So why did you join the team in the first place?
Coach Tricia Fabry asked me to join them. She wanted someone to document their trip, and because of that, I've done a lot of work, as many of you viewers have seen, with the women's basketball team, and Coach Fabry thought that it'd be a good idea to have somebody document the travels, and 13 hours of footage later, here we are.
No sleep at all either. So how was the experience being behind the scenes recording every second of the women's basketball team during this weekend?
As a broadcast journalism major and as an aspiring journalist, it was very difficult to take on that filming aspect of it because that's not what I'm trained to do. But at the same time, it was incredible because I say this all the time, Gio, when you're a journalist, you want to become an optimal storyteller. You want to be able to tell a story in a way that people aren't expecting it. And by getting a chance to document everything that these teams did, and I mean both teams, not just Quinnipiac, I got tons of shots of Maryland too. You learn so much about the people who make up that squad, not just the players, but the personnel, the coaches, everything. And I had all access. All access. I got in the locker room at any time I wanted to, all the dinners, the pep rally, everything. And it was an absolutely incredible experience.
So what specifically stood out to you the most this weekend?
What stood out to me the most? It's that this Quinnipiac Bobcats team, a team that ended up finishing the season 30-3, went undefeated in conference play. They're much more than a basketball team. They're a family. And Trisha Fabry is right there at the top of that family. But I was also introduced to people who we don't normally see, people who are behind the scenes, and that's what's incredible. And moreover, all of the different personalities that are on this team, from Samantha Guastella to even Adelie Martucci, who redshirted this year. You don't get to understand those stories unless you're actually there in person, and that was amazing for me.
So you mentioned the team has 30 wins on the season. They go to face Maryland, and they're up by half, but since you were at the game, can you explain what exactly happened to the Bobcats team after halftime?
Well, they went into the half trailing by 4, and that was after giving up a 21-12 lead. And they ended up, Maryland, that is, ended up going on a 9-point deficit. At halftime, Trisha Fabry, as you saw in that little speech prior to this, she gets fired up in the speeches. And at halftime, she actually said to the team, "We've got them exactly where we want them." They had plans to stop Alyssa Thomas, who's the star scorer for Maryland. But unfortunately, in the case of Quinnipiac, they ended up shooting 19% in the second half from the field. And when you shoot 19%, from field goal range, you're not going to win a game. And that's exactly what happened to this Bobcats team. They had the plans there ready to stop them. They just couldn't execute in shooting the ball.
So now, all time, where does this rank for favorite games to cover? Is there a specific ranking you would want to give it, or anything?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I've never covered a game like that before. So obviously getting to experience the NCAA tournament is, for me, just an unbelievably humbling and just a tremendous experience. The game itself, I shot from the baseline, and I've only done that once before. The game itself wasn't very exciting towards the second half, so I don't know in that regard if it's in my top games, but overall as an experience, it was fantastic.
Oh, thank you for stopping by, John.
Gio, I appreciate it.
Anytime. When we return, men's ice hockey heads to Atlantic City for the ECAC semifinals, and student ticket sales are reaching record numbers. Could a conference change increase attendance? Also, Steph Fasano stops by to talk about the acrobatics and tumbling team's start to the season. Do not change the channel. Sports Paws will be right back.
After Kevin Bowie's double overtime heroics, the men's ice hockey team will pack their bags and head down to Atlantic City to take on Brown for the ECAC Hockey Championship semifinals. The Bears of Brown came into this game after upsetting number 2 seed Rensselaer. Which team will advance to the conference finals?
Quinnipiac playing in the ECAC semifinals at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. The Bobcats are looking to strike first. Ben Arndt with the puck, takes it down to the corner. Here comes Bryce Van Brabant, but he just cannot finish as his puck goes over the crossbar. Nick Lappin trying to keep possession through great defense by Mike Dalhusen. Mark Niclario skates around the net, finds a wide open Matt Laredo for the goal, and Brown is going to take a 1-0 lead. Brown's Jeff Bryant takes the puck down the ice, across to Garnett, half away, skates to his left, uses speed, gets past Tolkinen, and puts up another puck behind Hartzell. The Bears are going to take a 2-0 lead into the second period. Joe Prescott's shot is saved by Hartzell. The puck winds up behind the net, and Prescott is there to follow up on his shot. Skates around, finds Francis Drolet, and scores his third goal of the game for the Bears. Brown on a 5-3 advantage. Great passing by the Bears, seems to hit every single player on the ice, and Laredo is there again for his second goal of the game. Brown moves on to the ECAC finals, defeating Quinnipiac 4-0. Here's Zach Curry and Rand Pecknold after the game.
Obviously, we were doing everything we thought we had to do to be ready today, and we clearly weren't. They just did all the little things right. They did everything they needed to do. They got pucks deep. They worked extremely hard, and they executed their game plan perfectly.
I don't want to take anything from Brown. I thought Brown was great. I thought Borelli was excellent. He made some saves when he needed to. I don't want to take anything away from them at all, but I think it was more of us. We stunk. Like we were a bad hockey team today. I don't know if we would have beaten anyone today out there, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Brown. They played their game. They did what they needed to do. They were all over us out of the gate, and we just we stunk.
You can always tell how good a team is when they respond after a loss. And let's just say Quinnipiac is pretty good. Bobcats goalie Eric Hartzell was a stone wall in the ECAC consolation game, who saved 30 shots and recorded his program record 10th shutout in a 3-0 win versus the Yale Bulldogs. With the win, the Bobcats improved to 3-0 versus Yale by outscoring their cross-country rival 13-3 this season. The Bobcats also helped bolster their case for earning the top overall seed in the NCAA Tournament.
As the men's ice hockey team prepares for the NCAA Tournament, our hockey analyst Kenisha Mcfadden stopped by earlier to recap the past weekend and tell us what to expect from the Bobcats going forward.
I'm here with men's ice hockey analyst Kenisha Mcfadden, who's making her first appearance on Sports Paws. We're going to start you off by talking about the ECAC quarterfinals between Quinnipiac and Cornell. Kevin Bowie, double overtime antics in Game 3. Bobcats win 2-1 in the series, but if you had to pick one player who stood out the most to you in the series, who would you pick and why?
Sorry, Hobie Baker enthusiast, but I'm gonna not say Eric Hartzell. I feel as though you play on the same level as Andy Isles. In the entire series, Hartzell only faced 60 shots, and Isles did that in one game. Their save percentages mirrored each other. But for my MVP vote, I will be giving it to Zach Squared, which is the starting D pairing for Quinnipiac, and that includes Zach Tolkinen and Zach Davies. Just recently, Zach Davies earned the title of Best Defensive Defenseman in the ECAC. In the Cornell series, he had a +4 rating, 10 shots on net, and 1 assist. Zach Tolkinen had 2 goals, 9 shots on net, and a +2 rating. It's always great to see defensemen contributing to the team and putting them on the scoreboard.
So now while the defense was an offensive firepower throughout the series against Cornell, they didn't show up in Atlantic City. They lost to Brown by a score of 4-0. But Kenisha, why did that happen?
Before the semifinal game, Brown and Quinnipiac met twice, and both resulted in ties. So a lot had to be changed, but weren't. The team was shut out 4-0 against Brown, and there was just a lack of communication, especially in the neutral zone. There was no transitioning, there was no ebb and flow in the game. Brown has the worst penalty kill in the entire ECAC, so it would have been great to see Quinnipiac capitalize on the power play, but they did not. And Hartzell was outplayed by Brown's goalie, Anthony Borelli.
And the Bobcats did eventually rebound and beat Yale by a score of 3-0 to win the consolation game, but do you think a conference championship would have helped them in the seeding for the NCAA tournament?
Although an ECAC title would have been nice for Quinnipiac to add on to their historic season, I don't think earning the ECAC title would have helped Quinnipiac with an NCAA bid because they had such a historic season. It's not going to be hard to get one. The ECAC title was won by Union consecutively the past 2 years, and last year they did not earn an NCAA championship.
Now, looking ahead, where do you see the Bobcats in the NCAA tournament, and do you think a Frozen Four is within reach?
I only see Quinnipiac making the Frozen Four if they clean up their power play. Right now, it's the worst in the ECAC, and you can't have that competing against teams like BC, BU, and Minnesota. So they need to stay out of the penalty box and be more disciplined, because you do not want to watch the game from inside the locker room or inside of the penalty box. Right now, it looks like we'll be playing an Atlantic hockey team, so they can use that time to clean up their power play.
Thank you, Kenisha.
Thank you.
The year in winter sports has been historic. Men's ice hockey claws their way to the top of the college rankings, while the women's basketball team has more than 30 wins, including an undefeated conference record and NEC title. Students took notice, resulting in some big ticket sales. Winter sports were as hot as summer this season, sending 2 teams to NCAA tournaments. But according to David Caprio, the group sales and promotions manager at the TD Bank Sports Center, student ticket numbers were just as shocking.
Students, I thought, were probably the best student crowds we've had here in a while, probably since we opened the building. I know that those first couple of years were pretty big, a lot of excitement with the new building and everything like that, so we had a tremendous support. But this year probably was the best since the building opened. The amount of students at games caused the ticket website to crash once the Quinnipiac Yale tickets were available. But why did that happen? And that happens. You know, we liken it to Ticketmaster sometimes. Depending on traffic, you know, stuff's going to go a little slower. And when you have a concentrated site that, you know, obviously many students on one network are all logging into at the same time, there's going to be issues. We talked to our ticketing company. They ensured there's things that they can do. We didn't have a problem with it last year for whatever reason. This year, that's unfortunately sometimes the way technology goes. But we've been assured that they're going to do everything they can to make sure something like that doesn't happen.
Now with basketball moving to a new conference and a top hockey program, more student tickets could be generated.
I think it's getting there. Like I said, I think our culture here, just in this building alone, I think is getting better. I think the teams are, we're with basketball moving to a new conference. Hockey already plays in a great conference. I think you're going to see students start to get it. We're going to be more competitive on a year in and year out basis, and I think it's going to become more exciting for people to be here.
Giovanni, Sports Paws.
The baseball team will head to New Jersey this weekend to take on Monmouth in a doubleheader. The Bobcats lost the first game 1-0, only to come back and clinch the second game 3-2 in extra innings. Chris McGanny drove in the game-winning run in the second game, and Scott Donahue had 5 runs overall in the 2 games. The second doubleheader was split as well, with Monmouth taking the first game 5-1 and Quinnipiac taking the second 5-1 as well.
One Title IX ruling a year later, the acrobatics and tumbling team has gotten off to an impressive start and will host this year's National Collegiate Acrobatics and Tumbling Association Finals. Camille called up with A&T analyst Steph Fasano to give us a preview.
Hi, I'm Camille Bova, and I'm here with Steph Fasano, who's going to fill us in on acrobatics and tumbling. So Steph, for those who are unfamiliar with acrobatics and tumbling, could you give us a brief rundown on the sport and some of the rules?
Yeah, well, first off, it's kind of a combination between gymnastics and cheerleading. So there's no high school team that has an acrobatics and tumbling program. Okay. So these girls start off in college. So gymnasts and cheerleaders both come together and they do pyramid rounds and stunting rounds and tumbling. So first you start off with a compulsory round, which is all the elements I just explained that start at 10.0. And you try and get the highest score that you can off of that. So that could just drop down to simply 9.8, which is pretty good, or a 9.3 if you have some bobbles. Then you go to the optional round, which is also pyramid, stunts, tosses, all of that, and you have to build up the highest starting value you can. Some really good schools can start at 10.0, but others not quite. So you just have to try and get as high as you can, high starting value, and the highest score wins.
Okay, and Quinnipiac's gotten off to a pretty fast start. What can they credit their 3-1 record to?
Well, it's really different, the team this year. They have 16 new girls, which is huge because the team's only about 30 girls. So that's a big, big difference. Also, they have a new coaching staff. They do have still their head coach, Marion Powers, but they have a new assistant coach, and they have 2 new coaches for tumbling, stunting, tosses, all of that. That can really change and impact a team.
Okay, and is there one specific person who they can credit their success to?
Absolutely. There's this captain last year, Erin Trotman. She's fabulous. Very, very good athlete. She is now the new assistant coach this year for the 2013 season. She's just been such a fantastic leader. She is able to take the team together, keep them together, trying to build new skills and higher start values. So with Quinnipiac starting now at a 10.0 instead of a 9.3 last year, that just gives them such a big pull ahead with now beating schools like Fairmont, beating schools like Azusa Pacific out in California that they had over spring break. It's really a big difference that Erin Trotman's made being a part of the coaching staff.
Okay, and Quinnipiac is hosting the NCAAs this year. What can we expect from this national competition?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be really different. Last year, Oregon really had it. They were going to win it. They just were just killing the other schools. They were just dominating. And now Quinnipiac's really giving them a run for their money. They beat Fairmont, like I said. They beat Azusa. They did fall to Baylor, which is better this year, too. They also have a lot of new girls, Baylor. But I really think that it's just like any other sport. You get seeded, and seed 2 goes against seed 5 and yada yada. So I really think in the finals it possibly could be Oregon versus Quinnipiac. It's going to be really interesting, but that's not until April, so we still got a little ways to go for that.
All right, well, thanks for filling us in, Steph.
Thanks, guys.
When we come back, women's lacrosse starts conference play at home against Sacred Heart, and we bring in analyst Nick Dench to discuss the team's play so far this season. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. After a win against Vermont early in March, the women's lacrosse team has had struggles finding the back of the cage while giving up an average of 13 goals per game. Quinnipiac hosted Sacred Heart for their first home game since March 2nd. Would the struggles finally come to a halt? The Bobcats hosting their first NEC game of the season against the Sacred Heart Pioneers. Early on in the first half, Sarah Allen passes the ball to Marie Lors, a shot, score. Bobcats take on the early lead, and Quinnipiac would continue to add on to it. A few plays later, Aileen Carey scores off a pass from Kira Akwat, and the Bobcats take a 4-0 lead, but Sacred Heart tries their best to come back. Taylor Babin on a free pass. Before that, though, the Bobcats actually score one more goal as Ailey Harry scores another goal. Bobcats take a 5-0 lead. Sacred Heart now trying their best to come back, and they start to slowly get there. Taylor Babin off a free shot gets it, and Sacred Heart slowly but surely taking that lead. During the second half, Jacqueline Zlever, unassisted, running down the field, and you can't even see her, she's going that fast, goes behind Samantha Tilts, and Sacred Heart ties the game at 5. And QU trying their best to not lose the lead that they fought so hard for this whole entire time, as Sarah Gainio intercepts the Sacred Heart pass, gets the ground ball. Bobcats scrambling around the field. Look at Gainio run. It's almost like Usain Bolt out there. Passes the ball to Sarah Allen, who gets a hold of it, shoots it. But unfortunately, they're still running around the net. And look at Kelly Keenan, the Sacred Heart goalie, running for her life. It's like Wally Coyote, but this time the road runner is Sarah Allen. She gets the goal, something you don't see very often, the all-time assist leader. And the Bobcats are staying strong, but Sacred Heart is just too much to handle. Zlever going to Kelsey Russo right about here. And Zlever just running around the field, almost like a headless man out there. And Kelsey Russo, shot, scores. Sacred Heart eventually wins the game by a score of 10-8, winning their first game of the season. Most importantly, Bobcats open the season with a Northeast Conference loss at home.
The women's lacrosse team gave Sacred Heart their first win of the season and lost their first NEC opener since 2008. Nick Dench stopped by earlier to break down the game and preview their upcoming game against Bryant University.
Quinnipiac women's lacrosse team fell in the most anticipated game of the season to Sacred Heart, 10-8. Kira Aquat and Sarah Allen, the only two Bobcats to score multiple points in that game. They only went 2 for 7 on those free position shots, and they need to capitalize more on that going into this game against Bryant upcoming this week. The Bobcats playing a strong Bryant team who capitalizes on their free position shots, going 6 for 7 in their last game against St. Francis. And this Bobcats team needs to step it up. This was the number 2 projected team in the NEC this season. Their last season, they'd really want to finish it off strong.
The men's tennis team was set to play Fairfield at home. That was until Mother Nature just said otherwise. Quinnipiac will travel to Providence, Rhode Island to face off against the Bryant Bulldogs. The Bobcats are currently 3-7 on the season while riding a 2-game losing streak.
And due to inclement weather, the Quinnipiac softball home game versus Fairfield has been postponed. The game was originally scheduled for Thursday, March 21st, but the conditions were declared unplayable due to snowfall. The athletic department is currently working on a makeup date.
And that will about do it for this week's edition of Sports Paws. But Camille, I have to be honest, I think this show is so good, I'm going to watch it over and over and over and over.
Well, hopefully all of our viewers agree with you.
They do.
To learn more about Q30 or to join us, visit us at www.q30.org and follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports. I'm Camille Bova.
And I'm Giovanni. So long, everyone.